Okay, this is the first light on the face. The first light, see how everything is flat.
Mm-hmm.
First light is going to bring roundness, and you see her head is not looking straight at you. It's like this.
Mm-hmm.
So the brightest parts, or the parts closest to you, the viewer, that's going to be right down the center, not the center of her head, but the center as it faces you. This is going to be the brightest part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I use a little bit of vermilion, but vermilion's a little bit electric. This stuff rolls out like water. Be careful. And I put a little bit of gold oxide in it just to kill some of that electric looking look it has. Just to dull it down slightly. It's up to you, people, to figure the way we want to do it. Now, I'm using a big brush. I can use a big brush because it has a nice point. It has a nice point on it, so it can come to a small. And then, I don't know where I put the other stuff.
Do you want the golden?
Whoops. Yeah, I like that golden better than this.
No, never mind. She got it.
Thanks. I have a little bit of this on my palette when I'm doing flush tones, because it enables me to do it transparent. If I want a transparent, it's right there. I can make it something very transparent.
Oops, 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 oops.
This hasn't got a finish on it yet either. But anyhow. Okay. So you want to make it sort of a burnt orange, kind of a tangerine color. And I'll start where it's brightest. Right over the iris, on the eyebrow, is a very bright spot. It's very bright there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And top of the cheekbone
Somebody needs it.
is a very bright spot. And then icon, and every icon. All faces are painted the same way, whether man or woman. There's some little differences between a man and a woman right here. I'll show you that later. But okay, top of the cheekbone. How to find the top of the cheekbone? If you anchor your hand and draw an invisible line right between the pupils, right there's the top of that cheekbone. Okay. And the light comes down like that. And also there's light here. It's close. That comes down. Now, if you run your finger down the bridge of your nose and squeeze a little bit as it comes down, it stops. Right? That's where kind of your nose kind of flares out, a little bulb kind of. The top of that is lit right there. And it's lit on this side because her head's turned, not on this side so much. Right? Then the bridge of the nose. Start right about there. It's bright. It gets dimmer as it goes down. And you can think of the nose as the three parts on a spoon. It has a finial, the handle, and the spoon. So here's the finial. You know, it's just a little V shape. The light on the nostril is on the back, top of the nostril. That's where it's brightest. We're only putting those where it's brightest right now. Well, that's where we start. And it's called the philtrum. Everybody, you know, this little. Watch, everywhere you put a light, things come forward. So you wouldn't want to make this side real bright right here, would you? Because it's turned back. The brightness is going to be on this side of the eye, not on this side, right? Make sense? Okay. You got to keep all these things in mind when you're doing this. Okay. Here's the philtrum right there. Maybe. You don't highlight the upper lip, but you highlight the lower lip. You can highlight the whole thing. Top of the chin, it gets a light. This side. Now, these are like, try to think of them as like the origins of light on the face, like a spark. The light, as it moves away from these spaces, gets dimmer and dimmer as it moves away. So, and you'll notice in an icon, the top of the face, the area, the nose and up, this part is pretty bright. It gets dim down toward the bottom. Also, the outside of the face is dimmer than the inside of the face because the roundness of the face. Wherever you put the light on the face, it brings it forward. And on the ear, it's the lower earlobe part of the ear that gets the highlight. You most often see it done in two pieces like this. This isn't the final. This is just the very brights. And on the neck, larger areas of flesh are always treated in a way that they're. You might look at my arm and say, well, that's one big piece of skin from all the way to here. But in an icon, you would see a section where there's like a muscle group. Actually, definition of the muscles and the bones underneath. Because when you, like say, you looked at the shroud of Christ, right? The burial shroud. What do you see? What do you see is the energy that burned that image on that. Mm-hmm. It came out right out of his flesh. And where there's a lot of flesh, like a shoulder or a knee or a belly, it's going to be more light. Even the roots of the teeth, because they're so dense, you could see them on the shroud. The roots of his teeth. Now, it's the same in an icon. Wherever there's a lot of bone or mass or muscle, it's going to throw off a lot of light. So shoulders are bright, but you don't see much of her shoulders, only the tops. And on the neck, you can start the brightness up. You can have the light come this way or this way, either one. But I chose on this icon to do it this way, and that's fine. And you see her chin line. Can you barely see it? Mm-hmm. It starts maybe up here, and as it goes down, it arcs away from her chin. I mean, there's more separation. Do you know what I mean? It arcs away. Mm-hmm. And then there's I separated it down here with collarbone. And that arcs away slightly too. That's the brightest part. Below that's lighter. Above it's a little deeper. Okay, that's maybe the first beginning of the first light. Now you're going to make these areas kind of grow. They're going to expand. So here's my spark, but her eyebrow is actually this big. But you can see I painted over that spark. Every time you do it, you have to paint over the same spark. This side, the eyebrow isn't quite as big or bright because it's on, her head's so far turned. So it's not going to be as bright. It's not going to be as bright as the other side. Then her just forehead. Right now it might look a little strange, but it'll make sense toward the end. So this is like a zone 1. Let's take it to zone 2. You always have to leave an eye socket. You don't paint right up against the eye and make it real bright. It would look like a Persian miniature or an Oriental face. It would look like a Persian miniature. That's how they paint it. They didn't paint the eye sockets. Icons always, there's a lot of emphasis on the eyes. And you always leave everybody has an eye socket. You can feel it. And so you paint that. This comes down some more. And this side will come down. This side, as it comes down, it also arcs. It arcs away from the nose as it comes down. So it gently arcs away from the nose. All the light on this side of the cheek is radiating from this point. So the further it gets away from that point, the more diminished it is, you know? The fainter it is. You can see it on here. The chin is bright on the top and diminishes as it goes down. You can make it bigger or smaller, depending on how you like. This area of the mouth comes right over to the lip. You can join it if you want to, you don't have to. And swings down to the chin. This side, minimal, because her head's turned. You don't have too much light right there. That's probably enough. You won't paint on that anymore, maybe. This part, you have to pop that out. So see how it comes forward. And eventually, there's going to be like this shape of a kind of a C shape right here that joins this to this. This should be pretty graceful. And this will be filled in. I got a lot of water in there. Well, I can let it dry and just be happy. Not a lot of pigment yet. Sometimes I do this whole process with a liner brush. It's fun to work with. When they painted an egg tempera, you have to use this because you can't really blend. So you're making really thin hatch lines and overlaying them. So, but for our purposes, we can do this. It's a lot quicker. Always start at the brightest part. Like I can say, oh, that's too bright there. I can tap it off with my finger, my thumb. It's going to be bright on the top of that and dimmer as it goes down. And then it picks up, it's going to be bright again right here and get dim as it goes down. You can bring it over very faintly as far as you want, if you need to. But you can't paint over wet paint. If you want to grab a smaller brush, and do the detail work around the eyes. It doesn't take too much around the eyes. The upper eyelid, you think, oh, that might be really bright. It isn't really bright in an icon. This is our eyelid. You can do it in 2 lines. I always do the bottom line first because it's always going to be a little brighter than the top one. Same. Okay, and then there are these, what we call them, the bag under your eye. Everybody has one. They usually start from the same side. I mean, if you're going to do it starting from this side and bright, on this one it'll be the same. Even if she's looking straight at you. That's the way it would do. So, just the top one first, then the bottom one, top one, bottom one. Okay, now I'm going to switch to this brush just for a little bit, show you. It moves along pretty quick once you get going. I can switch back to the other bigger brush. Oops, that's not that. This comes down pretty close to the nose. You're not painting over any lines. You might paint near them and next to them, but not ever over them. Because one thing you don't want to do is go back in and start adding things like lines. You starting to see her face pop out? We need a little light on that nostril. See, it's starting to pop out. On the edge of the face, you don't want to have a strong line. It'd be nice just to have it kind of fade into the Sankir, you know. And that ear, because you've already put the spark on it, as I would say, you can just take the whole thing and go over it. It'll still look like there was a spark there. Okay. Once you establish the bright areas, you don't have to be too afraid of using too much paint. I mean, you don't have to put as much water in your paint once you know where you're going with this. Also, a little bit of light is nice to have right here. If you're doing a portrait, or you can feel it, your eye puffs out a little bit above the fold. So we can put a little. You can put a little bit of light out here. I wouldn't put it on this side, but over here is fine to have a little bit of light. Maybe just a little bit there, because it does pop out a little bit. I got a ways to go, but that first light's nearly there, you know? It still has to be worked on. When it's pretty much opaque right here, and on these, that's when you know you're done. When if you were doing a portrait of someone, and you only had 2 colors, You say you have to make it finished. That's what it should look like. It's a portrait in green and orange right now. So when it looks done, then you'll be ready to move on to light number 2. Okay?